I'm Danny Whitescorn, and this is Behind the Title, where leaders show up differently. Lisa Thompson, managing partner at WPP Media, joins us to talk about classism and her organisation, Common People.
Common People is a group committed to making common people more common in the creative industries. The reason it's important is that in the UK, 39% of the population are from a working class background and only 19% in the creative industries are. The more diverse the industry is, the better work we'll do and the more effective we'll be. And I think the more fun everyone will have at work.
We'll also be talking about if there really is a north-south divide and how we can embrace the brilliant talent from anywhere in the country. Lisa, amazing to see you. Welcome to Behind the Title. It's 10 years, no, it's 5, 7, 8 years it's been since we saw each other.
Oh God, when would it have been? Maybe, I feel somewhere between 6 and 10, I would go.
It's been a while. Obviously we spoke a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to have you here. Thank you so much for joining Behind the Title.
Oh.
I guess for people listening, it would be good if maybe just do a bit of an intro about yourself, your role, and why it was important for you to come onto the podcast today.
So I am Lisa. I am a strategy and planning partner at Wavemaker North. So you can probably tell by my accent. And I am also the co-founder of a group called Common People, which is about tackling class diversity in the creative industries. And one of the things we're trying to do is talk about that more. So it's obviously good to have an opportunity to chat about it. I'll be honest, I had a chat and then looked at the people on it and the things you talked about and was like, oh God, I'm not sure I'm qualified to do this. But I thought we'd come and have a catch up and it'd be lovely.
I totally disagree. It's funny. I see and I follow lots of people on LinkedIn, people that I know, and I'm quite tuned into what's happening on the platform. There's certain people that I take an interest in, and I guess have been blown away by your career because, I think you're part of Bloom. I think you're part of many other different initiatives. I think you are someone that has almost built from the ground up, coming from a working class background. And you've built a pretty seasoned and decorated, I would say, career. And I think, you are, advanced when it comes to your IPA, I guess, qualifications. So let me just set the record straight. You are more than qualified to sit there. Anyone is. But especially, I think, given the topic that I guess we're going to talk about today, which is classism. Let me start with a direct question.
Yeah.
Is there a north-south divide? And do you think that within our industry, there is an elitism maybe placed against the south versus the north? Because I actually think there's some incredible talent and businesses up north, maybe some better than down south. So I'd love to hear your point of view.
It's a tricky one, is that? Because I think it will depend who you speak to, but I think part of the challenge is sometimes the kind of industry titles and maybe clients looking for work don't acknowledge the brilliant work that comes out of anywhere but London. I think it's definitely changed in recent years. There's some amazing independents in Manchester who are competing with the kind of big London agencies. I think the way I've been a Wavemaker, 15 years, that's terrifying. And definitely we as a company work much more cross agency now. Like I'll work on pictures with the London team. They'll work with us on our clients. It feels much more aligned than it ever did. I still think that there is a perception among people that in order to progress or in order to do brilliant work, you maybe need to move to London. I never really wanted to move to London. One, it's really expensive. And I wouldn't have been able to afford, I'd have had to pay for things myself. I wouldn't have been able to afford it. I like the fact that my commute is half an hour and I can be somewhere close. And also,
Do you get a car or do you public transport?
I get the tram.
Okay.
Every day. I've passed my driving test, not driven since. It's for the best. I don't go on the roads. And I think there's some really promising things that are happening. So Madfest came up north last year, and I don't know if you came, it was amazing. There were many people who worked at London agencies or clients who were like, oh, can we move up north? Like, this is way better and way more fun. So I think the steps in the right direction. But my ideal would be that actually we don't have a conversation about North and South divide, and you just pick the best agency and the best talent for what you work, and you forget about it. And there's lots of different things that people will ask for about North and South, and I think it's really important that you judge it based on the merit of the work. But I think in order to do it properly, the trade press need to come up north a bit more. I don't believe Campaign or any of the titles currently have anyone regularly right that isn't from London. We did a Common People event actually a couple of years ago. Oh, actually, maybe 12 months ago. It was an amazing event. We did it with the Social Mobility Foundation, and we had Terry Schumacher, the guy who wrote the Martin Freeman, should know the answer, the Martin Freeman program where he's a police officer.
I know which one,
but
yeah.
The Responder. We had a celeb, we had like a really great venue, we had plenty of notice, and we didn't get any trade press come up to the event. And I remember Jed, who I did Common People with, going, I think if it had been in London, someone would have got themselves there. So I think the industry need to acknowledge that it's a national industry and not just a London industry.
But it's an important point because Campaign were hugely supportive of this, and they did write an article, and I invited them to come to the launch event. And I think that certainly the premise of behind the title is something that the industry hasn't seen or hasn't been in existence up until now, right? Having senior leaders come and talk about either taboo subjects or areas that aren't always openly discussed. Yes, businesses support it, and yes, there are some amazing initiatives out there. But actually creating a conversation with people that are trying to change things, I think is hugely valuable. We obviously know each other because we work together.
Yes.
And we said it before we came into the studio. We worked on a pitch together. Yeah. And actually what I loved about when I got the opportunity to work on that pitch, and that was quite early in my career.
Yeah.
I came up north and I stayed up there, I think on and off for a couple of weeks, and I loved it. I used to spend a lot of time in Speak in just not far out of Liverpool for a client. And I just always embraced that there was a real kind of, I guess, community spirit, right? And I don't mean community as in like do-good community. Yeah. It's just everyone lent in, and there wasn't any agenda, and there weren't egos. That's not to say in London there are. Yeah. I don't want to generalize, but we had such a laugh on that pitch, and we talked about it a second ago, and the experience that I had was they were some of the best people that I worked with.
Yeah, there's brilliant people.
Pitch.
Yeah,
it was amazing. We should have won that.
We were robbed.
We were absolutely robbed. That was stolen from us.
That you've been robbed when all of the ideas you presented happened to turn up.
They did. They did. So. Explain to me a bit about, before we get into it, explain to me a bit about Common People and what you've kind of designed and what it's, I guess, enabling for, working class.
So Common People is a group that almost started a little bit by accident. So I first started talking about class. I did the IPA Excellence Diploma, and if you're not familiar with it, your kind of final piece is to write I think it was 2,500 word essay on the future of what you think the future of brands is. And mine was about, in order to have a thriving industry, we need to kill the elephant in the diversity room, which is class. So no one was talking about it. It wasn't on any IPA census data. And actually, what's really weird about class as a diversity metric is if you go back, to like the 70s and 80s, advertising had tons of class diversity. Might have all been white men from a class diversity point of view, but the routes into advertising, people would start in the post room and work their way up. And then probably around the late 80s, early 90s, we started to like almost like professionalize it. So it started to be that you needed a degree to do it. And so actually over time, class diversity really kind of went away. But if you look at like the golden age of like advertising, it was when you had that class diversity. And my essay was actually marked by, so I got the John Bartle Award for it. So
Oh, wow.
my essay.
One of the
BB, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I had a very like fangirl couple of emails with him. And he said that actually BBH was founded by someone who went to a grammar school, someone from a working class background, and someone from a private school. And actually that combination of their different brains made them do brilliant work. And like, their first iconic campaign was the Levi's ad, which we still talk about today. So I did the Excellence Diploma, wrote this essay, and it's weird when you're doing the Excellence Diploma, it's quite full on. So I was looking at it probably through a really like academic lens. I don't really think I'd acknowledge that it was quite personal to me. Did my essay, I submitted it in March 2020, and the plan was we were supposed to do the essay and then a TED style talk and then a Viva panel, but then COVID happened. So it was just that and the Viva panel. And I met Jed Hallam, who I met him because he weirdly marked my essay and then was a judge on my Viva panel. And it turned out he'd been talking about class to various people for...
And sorry, just for those who don't know who Jed is.
Jed at the time was, I think, the CSO of Initiative. So he marked my Viva panel. We'd had a little bit of chat, and then I decided, when Twitter was a thing, like after I'd won this award, I was just going to tweet. I was like, wrote a little bit about it, thought I should do something, and actually got a huge response from it. Like loads of quite influential people in the ad industry being like, this is amazing, completely on board with it, and was like, oh, I've kind of cottoned on to something. Did a few little bits of follow-up work. And then about 9 months later, after lots of things, Jed randomly did a tweet that was like, a group of us are talking about class, wanted to get a group together to chat more. Who wants to join? Thinking you'd get like 8 or 9 people, it wouldn't be a thing. Turns out that overnight we filled a WhatsApp group with people being like, I really am interested in this. I faced so many barriers because of my background. Some horror stories of things that had happened to them. And we were like, oh, there's something in this. Let's organise ourselves. So over the kind of next 12 to 18 months, and it's a funny group because we're all working full time. So we're kind of doing it. And we have a mission to make common people more common in the creative industries.
Creative and media, or just creative? Creative
and media. So anything that would be classed as a creative industry. So we, the kind of strands of that we try and talk about it as an issue, because I think class is a weird diversity metric in that people can feel a bit awkward about it and it's not as binary as other things. So it's quite hard to do. So we kind of campaign. We also, one of the big challenges you've got with class is in an industry that has a lot of people from predominantly very privileged backgrounds. People join industries and there's like really weird like cultural cues that people aren't familiar with, like people talking about where you went to school or skiing every year or various things. So we kind of try and break down those barriers. And within advertising and within all creative industries, there's a really high proportion of people who got in because they knew a family member. And what that means is if you know what media agencies are like, you look at the website, don't really understand what they're saying. You go to an interview, you don't know how to prep for it. But if you know someone, they can tell you what to say and how to research. And then the other issue that we are working on currently is the economic challenges. So there's a real issue in creative industries with how little people pay junior talent. And if you're wanting people to live in London, even if you should be paying a real living wage. Even often that's not enough. And also in a lot of the creative industries, you often need things that you can't get unless you have access to money. So you might need a portfolio, or you might need to have kind of tech on your computers to do it. So we, about 18 months ago, was it 18 months ago? We soft launched this fund with a brilliant organisation called Commercial Break, who work with young people and getting them into industries. And we did that because it's a hassle to set up a charity, and they had something. So we set up a fund that we got through like various speaking engagements. We sell merch that's quite cool. Commercial break, they very kindly they put like certain amounts of money to it from their work. The brilliant Andy Nairn at Lucky Generals, his book, he actually also marked my essay and wrote a book called his Lucky book, and he donated all his proceeds to Commercial Break, and as a result that goes into the fund.
Amazing.
And we soft launched it mainly because we didn't know how it would work, and the idea is, I think the maximum we ever pay is £500, and it's got to be for something that helps progress your career. So you have to write a really short application. We purposely don't field it too much because we don't want people to feel awkward about the information they have to give. So it's gone to people who might need a cost to cover them entering a competition or to get an Adobe license. And so we did it. We were like ticking along without publicizing it properly, and we're at a point now where we've kind of run out of cash, so we're kind of trying to make sure that we can do it. But our hope is to get that up and running so that when people need that bit of help, we can give them the help to help them progress in the industry. And yeah, there's about a group of 8 or 9 of us of core, a massive WhatsApp community. I'll be honest, sometimes like the chat is a lot. Like there's like a work chat where people can ask work advice. There's just an everything else chat. Sometimes if you're busy, you have to mute notifications because it's a lot. But it's a really lovely community, and it is one where it almost goes against the old boys club of advertising. So if you've got a work question, you can ask it. So we've had people go, I'm going freelance. Like, how do I set rates? Or I'm going on mat leave. Like, how do you have that conversation? Or I feel like I'm getting discriminated in my job. What can I do? And we've got like this like really lovely community of people who always like chip in to help. So it kind of started from an essay and then went forward. But yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about. And I feel like I've just talked a lot at you for 5 minutes.
No, I think at the very least, people that listen to this podcast who believe in the same values that I guess what Common People represents, I'd be surprised if you didn't have people reach out to you, say, how can we get involved? Because I think, part of this initiative and that passion that you have there is the same passion that I have when I wake up in the morning today to come and do this. Because I believe very much, certainly in my journey, I need to give away what was freely given to me when I got sober 17 years ago, and that comes in all shapes and sizes. So, hearing that, I think is really important, and I think it grounds probably, I guess where we go next, because working class, I think can represent and create a barrier. There's possibly stigmas that are associated with it. You've been in an organisation since you started as an apprentice.
So I finished uni in 2010 and started. Yeah, God, that's a long time ago.
Well, but that's why I think it's important. The next question is: during that time, have you found that there's been a moment where, on the outside everything was fine, but on the inside, you were possibly not feeling particularly great? And I'm asking in the context of both your day-to-day, but even maybe between the South and the North.
I don't know if I ever kind of felt it at work, but I think when I reflected on going to uni, so I went to Manchester Uni, and in my kind of best friend group, 50% of that group went to private school, which is way above the average. And there was a few times at uni I remember being like, oh, this isn't for me. I actually think now I would do an apprenticeship. Like, I think that's the way in. Like, I like working, I like routine, I like structure. The kind of uni world of having like 3 hours of lectures a week, I don't think worked. And there was a few things. One, I was one of a few people that I was around on my course that seemed to have a part-time job. Worked in the bookies, William Hill. Yeah. They used to have like a Wednesday afternoons at uni was always like sports, and like rugby union was like the big thing. And I'm from Yorkshire, like it's rugby league. Like I'm a football girl, but if you're going to do rugby league. So I found that bizarre. And I just remember getting to uni and kind of like at school, I was always I'm a bit of a swot, like, is doing it. And I found academic world quite hard. Like, I remember one of my friends at the time saying to me, I was struggling getting marks on essays, and she was like, thing is, at private school, you get taught how to pass things. So you get taught how to do it, which is a different way of thinking. But what I do know is, even though I might not have felt like this, and this is one of the reasons why I want to talk about it, is there's so many people who I've come across in common, people who've had awful experiences, of people making comments about the amount of alcohol they put in a glass of wine and it being common, or not knowing certain cues. Jed won't mind me sharing this, but Jed said that there's 2 stories he told me then, and he's told me this, I've spoke about this on his behalf at events, but he said he remember in his first job going out for a lunch, and it was Dauphinoise potatoes, and he called them dolphin nose potatoes, and everyone laughed because he'd never come across it, which now he's like, it's a bit silly, it's a bit funny. But he said he remembers going on a night out with clients and people he worked with, and them asking him if he could go and get drugs for them. And apparently one of the people went, oh, you're a bit of rough, you'll know how to do that. And like, lots of biases that you don't hear about. So I think I've been really lucky where I work that I haven't felt it has held me back. I think in any workplace, being a young woman, there's definitely things that all companies need to be aware of. But yeah, I think there's a lot of it going on. I do feel like if I'd have gone to London, I might have had a different experience. I've got quite a broad Wakefield accent. In a lot of places, I'm a strategist and a planner. There are lots of very, very academic, very posh sounding people. I don't know if I would have like fit in the same way. But yeah, I think it's important to talk about because a lot of people are having a hard time and don't feel like they can chat about it.
And it sounds like you've been supported very well throughout your career and through your kind of personal network. Has there been an experience you've had where you've either felt uncomfortable or you wish you would have said something? You know, you wish you would have, and it might have been on behalf of someone else, where, you know, either you've been in a room, in a situation, in a circumstance. You know, I remember on the last series, Michelle Sarpong from the 7 Stars talked about her experience with racism when she was at Cannes, and someone actually advocated on, I guess, her community, but her behalf. So I'm intrigued to know if you've come across those experiences where you've needed to, or you felt you could have spoken up, but you didn't.
I think there's probably situations I have heard about that have made me try and speak up in different ways in a more like formal setting. So a couple of years ago, I was president of Blue North, and so there were a few things that I did that I thought were really important. One, I made sure any event we did had the DICE charter guidelines, so like the right percentages that were representative of the UK, because I think it's important that you get to see all different kind of people. And we did an event actually we started an event series about like breaking taboos in the industry. And we had 3 people talk. We had NABS come and talk about the issues of people not feeling safe at industry events because of lecture men. We talked about things like periods in the workplace. So I don't know if there's ever been a really personal one where I wish I'd have said something in that moment. So I've tried to reframe it and do it in that way. One of the things that I do quite a lot of is mentoring, because I think sometimes you can start to plant the seeds early on. So when I mentor, I now regularly tell people to learn to have a conversation about pay, because it's important. Or we'll do that.
People find that uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still do, but it's really important. Like, chat about pay, like you've got to. And I think the other times I think there was one moment where we went through a period of pitching, and we used to get this pitch consultant in to like do it. I don't know if you ever came across the pitch you did.
There's many of them, but I'm sure.
And I think I remember once we'd done a run through and I wasn't very good. I feel like he kept like telling me to stop saying or like slow down, or it was one of those ones where he was trying to make it really like structured, and I'm not a very like a structured presenter. And one moment that has kind of stuck in my head was after that run through, Emma, who you'll know well, rang me and was like, "Are you all right? You didn't seem yourself." I was like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing." And she was like, "Just be yourself. Like, just do it how you want to do it. Like, don't worry about him." And we did another run through, and I actually got a message from our CEO at the time being like, "That was excellent." So I think one of the things I now try to do or think is really important is tell people to be themselves when you're presenting or when you're doing it, because if you're not being yourself, you're not being as good as you can be, and it's an issue. So I think that's a bit of word of advice that I pass on.
I struggled for a long time with pitching. In fact, actually, I think that the pitch that we did together was probably the most fun I'd had doing pitching. And then I think I went through a period of feeling uncomfortable. Like I'd have people say to me, "Oh yeah, but you're a natural," you know, and I'm like, I can do it, but I'm more off the cuff.
Yeah.
Quite organic, quite natural. And, you know, a colleague that I worked with would make a joke, it was about a couple of years ago, "Well, we know that Danny doesn't like rehearsals," you know, because I couldn't turn it on in rehearsal because, you know, for me, it's what do I feel in that moment, you know, and I can sometimes get kind of caught up with that. However, I have learned over the last couple of years the benefit of rehearsing, but rehearsing in a way that works for me.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that I need to write things down a couple of times and shorthand, which has helped me. But it's not easy when it feels like a live job interview pitching. Like it feels like you're pitching for your job. You're not pitching for the business. You're pitching for your job. And I think that it couldn't agree with more with just be yourself, because that's what people buy.
Yeah, they do. And they can tell when you're not being yourself. And also equally, if you're yourself and they don't quite like you, like it doesn't really matter. You can't be everyone's cup of tea, and like that's okay. And I think that is a really, and it's also like I was doing a pitch actually in May with and you know, like how some people keep talking about being off script, like I don't really get why you can't have notes in front of you. Like I get make them look nice, have a cue card. I remember saying to Grace, one of our planning managers, have your notes in front of you. Like if you feel comfortable and you're going to be better, do it. I remember saying, like, do you remember when Kelly Parker, our brilliant CEO, who we all love, comes? She has notes in front of her. Like, make it work for you. So I think that's one of the things that I hope I would continue to do is like advocate, particularly for junior people, helping them be themselves and not get, because I also think one bad pitching experience can turn you off it, and actually it's really fun when you do it properly.
Are there triggers in the workplace that set you off? Because my trigger is pitching. I've got a lot better at being able to manage it, and it's not the pitching, it's the rigid structure that some people need you to follow because that's how they work. But it's also this belief that, you know, I must recall everything, you know, that I said in a rehearsal.
One that gets me annoyed all the time is when we tell girls that they're too emotional. Drives me up the wall. Like, I think if you're crying every week, maybe not. But sometimes you have a cry at work and that shows you care and it's a good thing. And don't try and dampen your emotions. I can be quite direct, but also I'm quite sensitive. So I can overthink things quite a lot. And I think one of the things I think about a lot is like in a more senior position is like people respecting you and liking you, but sometimes you need to be direct. So I'm kind of working on myself to not overthink too much and like worry. And actually sometimes you might tell people something that they don't like and that's okay. And then the other thing that I think, what I've realised, and I think this is why I kind of do a lot with like Common People and Bloom, is I did some training called Empower, and it was a Group M at the time, WP Media training program for women at a certain level that was about developing leadership skills. It was really brilliant. And I realized my number one value is fairness. Like, if things don't feel fair, that's the thing that like winds me up the most. So actually, I need to work in an environment where things feel fair and equitable and where like reflective of it. So yeah.
Do you think that stems from classism? Do you feel like it's not always fair, or do you think that's just the values that you got brought up with?
Probably a bit of both. Probably the values. Probably from the background I'm from. Like, I like an underdog, but I like people to feel like they're getting what they deserve from the work that they put in. Like, it bothers me when. It really bothers me when you see people in a position. You will have seen people who aren't where they should be for the role, but seem to have got it. I think it probably is part of like my background, like being fair and doing things. Maybe it's been a Leeds fan because we're very unfairly treated. But yeah, I think fairness is something that I've just always had. I don't like it when things don't feel fair.
Do you ever find yourself standing in front of the mirror, metaphorically, physically, and having to pep talk yourself?
Oh God, all the time.
Really?
Like, literally. And I feel like there's loads of people who don't say that they do that, or they don't tell people that they're like having a hard time and they're like struggling it constantly. Like, I have, like, if I've got actually on the way down to this, like if I've got something that's like I need to feel like I pep myself up in, I'll put some usually Taylor Swift on. I've been watching girl bands forever, so I've had some girl bands on. I don't think when I present, I don't think it's like one of those people who are like really nervous, but I do it. But if I know I've got to have a difficult conversation, I'll give myself a pep talk. So yeah, I'm giving myself a pep talk all the time. There was something, have you been watching the Celebrity Traitors?
I haven't, but I watched the final, which would have been last night.
There was a really funny meme that came from it with Kat Burns walking across this thing, and she's talking to myself, being like, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine, you're an adult, you're an adult. And often I feel like that. I'm like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. And also sometimes where you just get things wrong or you don't feel like you're doing stuff. But I also think it's really important to talk about that so people see that actually sometimes it's not going as planned, and that's okay. And also I'm also not very good at hiding what I'm thinking, or like I'm going on holiday next week, and one of the things I've realized is I get to a point before a holiday where I'm very tired and I can feel myself like going a little bit. My friend Izzy, who I work with, was like, you look how I felt before I went on holiday. So yeah, I give myself pep talks all the time. I feel like I then give people a lot of pep talks. My favourite thing that I've been saying to people at the minute is, Big Swiftie, is on her podcast with Travis. She says, you need to think of your energy as expensive. Like, don't give your energy to people who aren't willing to like pay for it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of a pep talk.
There's certain go-to things that I use, whether it's music or movie clips. It's amazing the smallest mechanic can help lift me. I often say the serenity prayer, which is grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, give me the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. And I have to say that like 10 times over. There was a period where I'd have to have like 2 or 3 cigarettes. And I haven't smoked in a while, but I just find it interesting. Everyone has to manage those moments differently. Getting back to kind of the root cause, common people, because I think that's a really important part of this. I heard something recently which is all about diversity is about being invited to the party. Inclusion is about being invited onto the dance floor. Common people, from where you are now to where you want to go, how can people support or get involved or help with, the organisation?
If any rich people listen to this and would like to fund our fund, hit us up. One things that they can do is kind of look at the kind of processes that they've got in place. Make sure you're paying a real living wage. Make sure you're not expecting people to do work for free. The other thing you can do is think about when you recruit junior talent, some of the barriers that I actually think often with class, I'm quite an optimistic person, so I actually don't think people are doing things on purpose sometimes. There will be a small group of people who are, but when you do like interviews for entry-level work, don't make it a requirement to have a degree, because, I mean, I'm not sure you need one. Think about things that will make sure people feel comfortable in. So at Wavemaker, I helped design the Thrive program, which is our entry-level program. And one of the things we do is we share the questions we're going to ask ahead of time. And we give people tips like, if you want to find out about our stuff, don't bother with the website. Actually, look at our Instagram and our LinkedIn, you'll get more of a feel. We also tell people about the dress code, because no one knows what smart casual means. Like, I don't know what it means. Like, it's different. So we will say, in the office, girls tend to wear, like, they'll wear dress and trainers, jeans and trainers. Trainers are absolutely fine. Boys wear this. So things like that can just make it more accessible. And actually, if you look at the lens, often, there's a really brilliant person who's part of Common People called Emma Jackson, who heads up a production company, and she's amazing. You know the EE ad where they land the plane in the living room?
Yeah.
She produced that, like her company. And she said the thing that people need to remember is if you design things to make them inclusive, you actually don't just help the people who it is intended for, you make it better for everyone. So she helped us at Bloom write a neurodiversity playbook, and she talked about, actually, if you've got neurodiverse people, think about like being flexible in your office hours. That in itself isn't just an accommodation that would help people who are neurodiverse. It would help people who are like working parents. So if you design it with being inclusive, you make it better for everyone. So they're the things I would do. If you want to learn more about Common People, or you want us to come and talk, we have presentations we can come and give at companies to help. So get in touch with me on LinkedIn. And also Commercial Break, who are the organisation we do the fund with. If you're like, is our company good? Are they doing what they should? What they do that is amazing is they essentially used to just match working class talent with companies and do like schemes. And they actually found it wasn't working, because they found that people would bring them in, would do it as like a tick box, wouldn't work with them in the right way. They had horror stories of experiences that people went through. And so they now, before they match you, will do like an audit of where you are.
Okay.
And it's they charge for it, so because it's a really big piece of work. But they will audit your business and say, these are the things you need to work and help you measure it. So I would do that. And we have a Substack, we have a newsletter. It's been on a little hiatus, but when that gets back up and running, if people want to fund the Substack, you can donate. So read about it and get up to speed. And I think the other thing I would say is, if you think about the moments in culture we've talked about this year, Oasis reunion, adolescence, those are all moments that have been created by working class people being in the industry. So adolescent Stephen Graham talked about in his Emmy speech, being a lad from a flat in Liverpool. Like, actually reframe talking about class as it being the right thing to do, and you will get better work. There's not been a better TV programme than Adolescence this year, and that is the result of class diversity. I have been watching girl bands forever this week. I feel like your kind of pep talks are much more like intelligent and deep than mine.
No,
you know, like Taylor Swift. And what's really interesting is Atomic Kitten. They talk to people from Atomic Kitten, and then being working class girls from Liverpool. And actually, a lot of the big girl bands come from working class backgrounds, and everyone likes a girl band banger, whether you're cool enough to admit. But if you didn't have girl bands in culture, it would be a sad state of affairs. So I would ask people to be curious about where some of the culture is that they're looking at, and see the benefit of it.
Just before I bring it to close, does Common People provide access to like a panel, for instance, if clients want to understand more about, working class backgrounds across the country?
So we have presentations that are ready to go. We will come in and speak to people. We're also really willing to like design stuff and like
Brilliant.
have a chat about it. So yeah, we've spoke at like the IPA. We've done training courses for people. So yeah, we've got, and even if what we did when we started Common People is we realised there was loads of brilliant organisations out there, so let's not replicate it. But if we can't have the answer, we will probably have a good idea of where to find it and who has. But yeah, it's a good community. It's not a community that's always serious. Like, there's lots to chat about, which is the best bit being. A big debate of whether Murder on the Dance Floor is a banger by Sophie Ellis-Bextor. It is a banger. So yeah, it's like a fun community. And if you're listening and you're from a working class background and you want to get involved and you want to kind of join the community, just drop us a note.
And as we draw to a close, and honestly, I'm fascinated. It's so lovely to see you after so long. If you could we talk about the permission slip. If you could give permission to people across the country, whether you're north, south, east, west, to kind of think, feel, or do when it comes to classism, working class, what would that be?
I think a really important thing, and what I try to do, is like use your voice. Like, you've got a voice, so feel like you have permission to talk about things. I like speak up and do things, and if and that will help. But one thing I would say with using your voice, I got a bit of advice at uni in a very different context. I did a drama degree, and there was this like mad lecturer who always used to say, you've got to earn a shout. So when you go on a play, if you go and watch a play and people are shouting all the time, you've lost it. You lose the ability to have the moment or the impact. I would say, if you're going to do stuff, earn your shout. So I believe most people want to do the right thing. Yeah, there's some frustrating people around who are saying things and not doing, or maybe talking about class for reasons that aren't about doing the right thing. But I think see the best in people, and then when you need to shout or you need to have a little bit of a kick-off, you get away with it. And then the other thing that I would say to people is, if you feel like you're in an organisation where you aren't appreciated or able to be yourself, leave that organisation. The reason I think I've done so well at Wavemaker is I've always been like allowed to be myself. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Love that. Lisa, thank you so much for coming. Have a fantastic holiday. And I look forward to this episode going live, because I think it's really going to impact a lot of people in the industry. So thank you for coming. Absolute pleasure to see you.
Oh, thank you for having me.